Let's get right into it. Number 10. The sugar high lie. Asterisk. Most parents believe that giving their kids sugar transforms them into little whirlwinds of chaos, but that belief doesn't hold up under scientific scrutiny. Researchers actually put this theory to the test. Some children were given sugar, others received a placebo, and neither the kids nor their parents knew who had which. The outcome, no difference. The children who had sugar behaved no more energetically than those who didn't. When parents thought their children had consumed sugar, they suddenly started interpreting normal behavior as hyperactivity. They watched closely, expecting wild energy. One jump must be the sugar. A giggle, sugar rush. This misconception dates back to the 1970s when a doctor suggested that food additives could be behind children's hyperactive behavior, a theory parents were quick to embrace. A child running wild at a birthday party is more likely reacting to the excitement of the party itself. The games, the friends, the chaos, rather than a slice of cake, chances are they'd be just as amped up even if the cake were completely sugar-free. Number 9. You've probably heard the claim that humans only use 10% of their brains. That's about as accurate as saying fish only swim in 10% of the ocean. This myth is so widespread that Hollywood even made entire movies based on it. The kind where someone takes a magic pill and suddenly starts solving quantum equations while doing backflips, but in reality, your brain is already running at full capacity. All the time, using advanced brain scanners, scientists can observe brain activity in real time, and what they see is that your entire brain is active, even when you're asleep. While you rest, your brain is still working hard, regulating your breathing, keeping your heart beating, and even replaying embarrassing memories you wish you could forget. Although it only makes up about 2% of your body's weight, your brain consumes a whopping 20% of your energy. It's like having a tiny space heater that uses most of your electricity. If 90% of your brain weren't doing anything, evolution would have gotten rid of it long ago. Nature doesn't hold on to useless parts. The proof, even small damage to the brain can have serious consequences. That tells us every part has a job. The 10% myth probably started with a Harvard researcher in the 1800s who said people weren't living up to their full potential. Somewhere along the way, that idea got twisted into the false claim that we only use 10% of our brains. Number 8, you've probably heard the old myth that a penny dropped from the Empire State Building could pierce someone's skull. Fortunately, that's just not true. When a penny is dropped from a great height, gravity pulls it downward, causing it to accelerate. But soon, air resistance comes into play. Air isn't empty. It pushes back against objects moving quickly through a dot as the penny falls. It collides with their molecules and starts to tumble after falling roughly 50 feet. It hits terminal velocity, which for a penny is only about 25 miles per hour. That's actually slower than someone riding a bicycle. Getting hit by a penny at that speed might sting a little like being flicked. One collides with a fest. Annoying, sure, but far from deadly. Now, if you drop that same penny in a vacuum, like outer space, it could accelerate past 200 miles per hour dot. But here on Earth, you're much more likely to be seriously injured by something like a falling ballpoint pen. Pens are aerodynamic enough to slice through the air like little arrows. Number 7. Asterisk. The old saying that lightning never strikes the same place twice is simply false. In fact, the Empire State Building is struck by lightning around 25 times every year. There was even a park ranger named Roy Sullivan who was struck by lightning not once, but 7 times. People nicknamed him the human lightning rod, and remarkably, he survived all 7 incidents by the time he was hit for the 4th time. His coworkers started steering clear of him whenever a storm rolled in. Lightning tends to strike tall structures again and again. If you're the tallest thing in an open area, like a solitary tree in a field, you're basically putting a target on yourself during a thunderstorm. Even more surprising, lightning doesn't always strike right under a storm cloud sometimes. It hits miles away from the center of the storm. These are known as bolts from the blue because they can strike under a clear sky with no warning. You could be enjoying a sunny moment and out of nowhere, lightning hits. Number 6. Asterisk. Vikings left their horns at home, despite popular belief. Vikings never went into battle wearing horned helmets. The whole horned helmet idea was actually invented by theater costume designers in the 1800s while creating costumes for opera performances. They added horns to Viking helmets because they thought it looked more dramatic on stage. In doing so, they unintentionally created one of the biggest fashion myths in history. Realistically, wearing a helmet with 2 big horns into battle would be a terrible idea. It gives your enemies easy handles to grab, and the horns could easily get caught on tree branches during a raid. Authentic Viking helmets discovered by archaeologists are simple, practical pieces of armor, sometimes with a nose guard for added protection. Yes, a few horned helmets were found in Denmark, but they date back 3,000 years before the Viking era. These weren't battle gear, they were ceremonial items, more like ancient crowns. It's likely that 19th century opera designers saw these ancient ceremonial helmets and thought, perfect, let's give them to the Vikings. And just like that, millions of people grew up thinking Vikings charged into battle with horns on their heads. Number 5. Asterisk, your razor isn't making you hairier. A common myth says that shaving makes your hair grow back thicker and darker, but that's pure nonsense. When you shave, all you're doing is giving each hair a tiny flat top haircut. Think of it like cutting a tree straight across with a chainsaw. The stump feels rougher than a smooth, tapered tip of a natural branch. The same thing happens with your hair dot as it grows back. It feels thicker because you've created thousands of tiny, flat-top stubble ends. Scientists have looked into this for decades and found that shaving has absolutely zero effect on how your hair grows. Your hair's texture, color, and growth speed are all determined by your genes. Shaving doesn't rewrite your DNA. If shaving truly made hair grow and thicker, every balding man would be shaving his head non-stop. We'd have solved baldness with nothing more than a can of shaving cream. But Jeff Bezos is still bald even, though he could afford a lifetime supply of luxury razors. The reason this myth sticks around is because regrowing stubble feels more noticeable when it comes back. But it's the same old hair just with a blunt edge. Number 4. Swim whenever you want, chances are. Your mom once told you to wait 30 minutes after eating before going for a swim, warning that you get a cramp and possibly drown. This myth became so common that even lifeguards used to take it seriously. But the truth is, there's absolutely no evidence that swimming after eating is dangerous. Not a single documented case exists of someone drowning simply because they had food. Before hitting the water dot, the idea behind the myth was that after eating, your blood rushes to your stomach for digestion, leaving your arms and legs short on blood and more prone to cramps. But in reality, your body is fully capable of managing both digestion and swimming at the same time. Sure, if you jump into intense exercise right after a big meal, you might experience a small cramp, just like running too soon after eating, but it's not a serious risk. In fact, the American Red Cross has confirmed there's no real danger here. Professional swimmers actually eat while training, fueling up in the middle of workouts. So go ahead and swim, just maybe. Don't scarf down a whole pizza right before doing laps. Number 3, your head is in a heat chimney. You've probably heard your mom say, put on a hat or you'll freeze. That whole idea about losing 50% of your body heat through your head, total myth. It all began with an old military survival manual claiming that 40 to 45% of body heat escapes through the head. But here's the catch, in that study, participants wore full winter gear, leaving only their heads exposed. Naturally, most of the heat escaped from the head. It was the only uncovered area. In reality, your head accounts for about 10% of your body's surface area, so it can only be responsible for losing about 10% of your body heat. Heat loss happens in proportion to whatever skin is exposed to the cold. Your head might feel colder than other parts of your body because it has more blood vessels near the surface, but that doesn't mean it's losing significantly more heat than your bare arms or legs. The only time this advice really applies is with babies and young children. Their heads are proportionally larger, so they do lose more heat from that area. But for adults, leaving your arms uncovered will let out just as much heat as skipping the hat. Number 2, goldfish memory isn't so short after all. You've probably heard people say that goldfish only have a 3-second memory. That's total nonsense. These little fish are actually surprisingly intelligent. Scientists have tested goldfish by putting them in mazes, and not only did they solve the mazes, they remembered the solutions months later. Goldfish can even recognize human faces. Picture being a goldfish, swimming around your bowl and thinking, hey, it's Dave again, the guy with the food. They're also capable of learning tricks. Some trainers have taught goldfish to swim through hoops or even play a tiny game of soccer. A few have even learned to tell different pieces of music apart, and they're doing all of this with a brain smaller than a pea. Researchers believe that studying how goldfish brains work could actually help us better understand human memory too. Number 1, gum doesn't stick around for years. That old story about swallowed gum staying in your stomach for 7 years, it's completely false. When you swallow gum, it moves through your digestive system just like any other food. The only real difference is that your body can't actually break it down. Think of gum like corn, it just passes through. In fact, most gum leaves your system within a day or two. It doesn't cling to your insides. Your stomach is always at work, churning and pushing everything along. And those scary stories about gum causing problems, unless you're swallowing massive amounts of it all the time, there's nothing to worry about. Humans have been chewing on all kinds of stuff for thousands of years. The ancient Greeks chewed tree resin, and the Mayans chewed chicle. None of them suffered from 7 years of gum buildup. So no, gum won't stick in your stomach, but it will stick to sidewalks for years. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.